Hello there, everyone. Welcome to another episode of Meta Talks by Metagate Summit, an event organized by Eumina Events in association with VR/AR Association. Today, we have a wonderful guest here, Mr. Simone Puorto, who is a visionary advisor, keynote speaker, and published author with extensive experience in the travel and hospitality industry. He has organized the groundbreaking Polybius event, the first ever travel and hospitality gathering in the metaverse, with a strong presence in academia. Simone is a sought-after MBA lecturer at renowned institutions worldwide. He serves on the advisory boards of prominent companies including BWG, RoboSizeMe, Sleep.io, Vision, Tell the Hotel, and a lot of others. He is the founder of Travel Singularity, a highly respected consulting firm, and works passionately from Rome and Paris to shape the future of business through innovative and sustainable solutions. Mr. Simone, welcome to the stage.
Thank you so much, Salman, for having me.
Thank you for being here, Simone. Let's start this off by asking a little question I like to ask everybody who comes on here, and that is, how did you end up here? How did you end up in the metaverse industry?
Okay, that's an interesting one. So when I started working in hospitality 25 years ago, I wanted to do something completely different, right? I wanted to be, of all things, a philosophy professor. And I said, what is the easiest job I can get so I can study and pay for my university? And I said, okay, I know English, I know a little French. Maybe I can go and be a receptionist in a hotel. But then I fell in love with the industry, and 25 years after, I'm still working in the industry. But I've always had a very big passion for tech and science fiction as well. Okay, so this was always a big part of my life. And over the years, of course, I'm more well known for all the work that I've done in the hospitality space. But I always consulted for tech companies as well, even though up to a certain moment, these two different industries seem to work in silos in a way, right? I always say that just talking about stuff like the metaverse or artificial intelligence in the hospitality space that is perceived as something so high touch was perceived as almost blasphemy, okay? This all changed. So I tried to keep my two quote unquote careers very distinct in a way. After COVID arrived and all the problems that it created, especially with labor shortage and the need for more automation, all those kind of things, I think that the industry started to be a little more open-minded about tech. And this is where even from hospitality clients, I started having questions about, okay, what we can do with the metaverse. That it was something that I was already doing, but only for very selected industries, right? So it looked like up until a couple of years ago, this was just, stuff that we discussed between geeks. And at some point, it became a little more mainstream. So tech has always been my passion. I wanted to be a philosophy professor and try to understand the connections between tech and humans and how they react with each other. And the hospitality came in, and at some point, all the different things just came together. And now I'm in this strange position that I know, like the metaverse world, I know the hospitality world as well, and I kind of understand the implications on a human level. I don't know if it makes sense. That's a long story.
Beautiful, beautiful, Simone. That is indeed a very wonderful story. And I believe that at some point, with a lot of knowledge in several industries, it gives you the opportunity to build bridges, and that is what you've been doing with Polybius. Now, speaking of the metaverse, I'd love to know what you think are the biggest opportunities and shortcomings presented by the metaverse and Web3 as a whole for the industry?
So the first problem to me is always, and again, could be me being like a philosopher in a way, but I think it's we got a semantic problem with the word metaverse, and I've said it many times. I said, look, when we talk about the metaverse, we're taking the term from a very dystopic science fiction book from the 90s, right? And I think that words are very important when we try to define the word. And so I do understand that when we talk about the metaverse, a lot of people, especially in our industry, can be a little suspicious, right? So the first element to me is a perception problem, even before a technological problem. And let me tell you a short story. When we did the first Polybius event 2 years ago now, 2 years and a half ago, if you remember, the president of the Italian Hotel Association told a story about the first reservation via email. He said, look, at the association, when we received the first email reservation, we were having a party, you know, opening bottles. But the hotels, they were super afraid because they thought that people would stop to travel because now you got the internet and now you got digital worlds and now you got the virtual worlds, okay? So this happens all the time, you know, it doesn't matter if it's the facts, the internet, the metaverse, AI, generative AI, whatever it be, extended reality, spatial computing. You just change the letter, but it's at the end of the day, it's always the same. So I think we got a perception problem. That's the number one. The second problem, this is not only for the hospitality space, is of course interoperability. And especially in our space, this can be a problem because let's say you build something like you start building a digital twin and you want to start doing something in the metaverse, but you're building on a metaverse that for whatever reason, it goes out of business or users leave the platform, whatever, you're left with nothing. And this happens all the time. I spoke at an event a couple of months ago, and an Italian destination, I will not tell you the destination, but he came to me and said, look, we created these beautiful digital twins of a lot of museums and different locations that we do have, but the virtual world where we created on top just went bankrupt. And now we have something that we cannot use. And this is a problem, you know, like we got how many, like 150 mainstream metaverses right now. Like imagine trying to build your own hotel in all these different platforms. So this is a problem. And it's a problem for pretty much every industry. But let's say if you're Nike, probably building something on Roblox will be more than enough. If you're Hilton, you have different demographics. So maybe you need to build something on Roblox, but you need to build something on Spatial, and you need to build something on the Central, and you need to build something on the Sandbox. And that is like a crazy high investment. Another problem is that exactly like hotel websites back in the 90s and early 2000s, right now, in most digital twins, the only thing you can do is look at rooms or look at the location, right? You cannot really buy. And even if you can buy, you are redirected always on a Web 2 kind of platform. So you will go to a booking engine, for example. You know, you will go back to e-commerce. So what we're trying to create is I-commerce, immersive commerce, so that I get into the room, I look at the room, and I just click, or even better, I blink, and it's all paid by my wallet, and it's totally frictionless. And this will remove all the friction in the purchase. So I think that the main three issues that we have with the metaverse today in the hospitality space are the following. Number one, perception. Can be semantic or just perception. The second one is the lack of interoperability or limited interoperability, better. And number three is the fact that right now, most metaverses in the hospitality space are just brochures, nothing else. You cannot really do anything on those.
Beautiful. I completely agree, and I love your take on this. It's not being tackled enough within the space, and I feel like someone really had to say that. And speaking of things someone had to say, we were having a conversation last week, you and I and Lara, and we're talking about how little of the opportunity proposed by the metaverse is actually being talked about. I mean, We tackled disadvantages, and now I'd love to see the opportunity.
Oh, so there's plenty of that. So first of all, I think we should look at the metaverse in the hospitality space on two different angles. So the first one, it will just be the logical evolution of the way we book. And if you look back, I'm 44, so I'm not a boomer, but I'm getting old. Okay, and when I started, we used to have physical travel agencies. So if you wanted to book a hotel, you needed to go to a physical travel agency, open a paper catalog, look at one photo, and choose the hotel based on that single photo. And usually, the hotel was nothing like a photo. And then we moved to websites, and then we moved to review sites, and then we moved to social networks, and then we moved to virtual tours and so forth. So like in this sense, the metaverse is just the logical evolution of the tool we use to book, because we want to know what we book before we book it. It's not like it's always interesting to me that one of the most searched keywords on YouTube is unboxing, because people, they want to see stuff before they buy it. And that is the same with everything. Okay. So on one side, we got this pre-visualization aspect that is very interesting, because now you can really go inside the room. You can check the room, you can check if you like it, you can have a sense of the size of the room. And that's all pre-visualization. That is great, but that's just the logical evolution of what we have now. And it will not replace it. It will just be part of that. My father still likes to book on a travel agency. That's fine. But I don't go to a travel agency. If there is like a metaverse version, I will go there. Okay. So they will coexist for a little while. The other aspect is that with the metaverse, we can talk to a demographic that is completely new and untapped. And I always say this, I teach a lot of classes over the years. And I say, look, I'm so sorry, but sometimes we're teaching you tools that will not be effective by the time you get out of school, right? Because we're teaching you right now how to do Facebook ads, but my kid will never engage with a Facebook ads. This new generation, they have this complete advertisement blindness, and so we need to slightly change the way we communicate with these people. Okay, and it could make way more sense to advertise in Roblox. Let's say you're a family hotel, right? And I have a kid now, and so I know that I don't book the way I booked before my kid. Like he cannot, he's 3, he cannot pay for the trip yet, but he can influence the way I book, the way my wife book, right? And if we talk to that little kid, we will get to a whole generation that is completely untapped. And that is why I always say, you know what? Okay, we keep doing Google ads, we keep doing meta search ads, but why don't we put a little bit of money on Roblox ads, for example? And and maybe you got a little kid that will see an ad for this beautiful location while he's playing. So look, I've seen this, beautiful castle in Norway. It would be great to go there. And maybe, this starts a conversation. Super cheap. You don't have to build like a digital twin. The only thing you need to do is just advertise on this platform. And I think some companies are doing it like in a great way. Like Deliveroo, for example, a few years ago, they were putting avatars dressed as delivery drivers inside, I think it was Animal Crossing, something like that. And so what you could do, basically, you get in touch with them and order the food directly in the game. And then the food was delivered to your door, right? And again, this is not the way my father booked. This is not even the way I book, but this is the way my kid get influenced so that I can book for him. So this is what we're not seeing. That is not only just using a different tool, and that is part of that, but it's also using this tool because that's the only tool that these kids that are AI native, crypto native, metaverse native, call it what you like, no, we will never be able to talk to these people with Instagram ads.
Yeah, I completely agree. completely agree with you. And even concerning the Roblox example you gave, not long ago, we were actually working on a project on Roblox wherein it really goes both ways. You've got your metaverse strategy, your monetization strategy of selling ads within the game, right, within the map. And you're also in someone else's map, in someone else's ad. And that really shows the spirit of collaboration that's going to be created with the metaverse, as well as the new funnels for monetization for brands. And speaking of monetization, there was a McKinsey study issued not long ago that said that 15% of corporate revenue would be coming from the metaverse within the next 5 years. Where does that 15% fall within the hotel industry's monetization strategy? How are the hotels and the travel agencies going to be profiting from the metaverse?
So the first thing that need to happen is implementing booking engine inside the metaverse. Okay, that's like this needs to be done like yesterday. Okay, and I know a couple of companies are already doing this, and we don't really have to reinvent the wheel. We don't have to create a metaverse booking engine. We just need to integrate existing booking engines to immersive commerce experiences. Otherwise, this will never work because okay, let me give you an example of that. Let's say you are in this beautiful room in like a beautiful boutique hotel in Paris, right? And you are in the digital twin and you really like this room, right? And there is a beautiful view of the Eiffel Tower, amazing room. And in that room with you, there are maybe other 5 or 6 or 7 avatars looking at the same room. And so you got this sense of urgency. You really want to book that room now because they're talking. They want to book that room. Say, okay, I need to book that room. Now, let's say you can do it by just blinking your eyes or just touching the screen. That will be the end of it. Even in terms of urgency, that would be great. Now, what happens is that click and you get redirected to a browser, but usually browsers in the metaverse are always pain to use. And now you need to finish your reservation. And so you need to get your credit card that with one eye you are inside the metaverse, with the other one you're the credit card. It doesn't work, okay? So if this is how, if you want to get to that 15% in the hospitality space, the first thing we need to do, we need to move from e-commerce to I-commerce, immersive commerce, okay? That's key. The other one is there is a way to self-sustain metaverse project even right now. Like I always say, especially if you are in a destination that is, crypto friendly or Web3 friendly, one great way to do is to create a digital twin of a meeting room, for example, right? So you can use it for hybrid events, or you can use it just for virtual events. Okay, so I'm working a lot with Switzerland right now, and Lugano is a great example of a city that is so crypto friendly, and so there is a demand for that. So let's say that you start building something, and you can bill for that. You can sell it as a space. You can go completely crazy with that. There are no rules that apply in the metaverse. No, there's no gravity. There's nothing. You can do whatever you want. So I would say that in the long term, the only way we will get to that 15%, and that is exactly what happened with e-commerce, right? Before everything was, walking and telephone calls and maybe fax. And then it's probably, 85% is e-commerce for hospitality, something like that. And this didn't happen overnight. It happened because we created some experiences that started and ended inside the web. Remember before, like if you wanted to book a hotel in 98, for example, you didn't have any booking engine. You went on the website, but then you had to send an email or give a call or send a fax. So you got this connection from this beautiful experience that was the websites back in the day, and today is the metaverse. And then you are brought to a more analogic kind of experience, right? So this is the problem we need to solve. So booking engines, open your APIs, make sure that we can actually create integrations, and that will be much, much easier.
I absolutely love that. Uh, I agree with you 100% on the importance of having everything built into the metaverse. And it's going to be very critical for the brands of the next 5 to 10 to 15 years to learn how to leverage the metaverse at some point so that they don't go into what Adidas went to when they were facing Nike in the e-com battle in the early 2008, 2007 period, where Nike went all in on e-com, Adidas went all in on brick and mortar, and Adidas ended up, stagnating for a few years and never really caught up to Nike. So there is a huge opportunity presented by the metaverse indeed. And speaking of in metaverse booking, let's talk a bit about Roomnight tokens, RNTs.
So that's another look. I cannot really tell you too much because I got like, I don't know, probably 10 NDAs not right now with companies trying to do the same thing. But it's, again, even this one is in the logical evolution, right? And I always say tokenization. Look, we don't use the blockchain because it's cool. We use the blockchain because it solves so many problems at the root. Like, let me give you an example. This is something that is super under discussed, okay? And I came up with this idea. I said, look, am I the only one thinking about this? Because either I'm crazy or I'm freaking genius. So the thing is that think about one of the biggest problems that hotels have today, and that's rate leakage, right? Especially in Europe, it's always a problem. You got like maybe 10 different distribution channels, and your rates are just all around the place, right? And if you're running meta search ads, for example, this creates a problem because now you're investing to get direct bookings that usually are less expensive than bookings coming via third parties or online travel agencies. But now you got an online travel agency selling at 25% less than your rate, and I'm not going into the technicalities of how this happens, but if you work in hospitality, that's a big problem, And now let's say you tokenize that. That will be on the blockchain. It will be immutable. So if I give one rate to a third party, that will be the rate. End of story. There's nothing you can change, right? So even in terms of control over the rates, that will be great. And then, of course, there is a whole new discussion about decentralization. Again, our industry is very centralized, probably over centralized, right? With especially in Europe, that's basically booking.com land, right? And with some destination having up to 70-75% of reservation coming from online travel agencies, and the costs are pretty high, right? And you cannot really find them. I don't think it's not even a viable solution, But what you can do, you can start creating different approaches. And the way you create a new source of revenue that is completely direct, and it will give the user something that it can only have through your direct channel, is to tokenize the room, right? Because again, you want to sell direct because you want the reservation to be cheaper, fine. You offer a discount, but then somebody's undercutting your rate and that discount is gone, right? So what you can do with room tokenization, you can put the user in charge of the room, right? I wrote an article a few months ago about guests becoming revenue managers. They say, look, you can buy this room and maybe you can resell that room, and both you and the hotel will make some profit out of that because it's on a smart contract. There's a whole new market for that, right? And this is probably more obvious for industries like music or sport ticketing, for example. There's been a lot of talking about tokenization because it will solve the problem of scalpels, of reselling tickets at crazy prices and so forth. But in our industry, this will first of all solve the problem of rate disparity. As I told you, it can create sense of community. It can create a connection with the hotels that is bottom up. So we're pretty the hotel business is pretty snobby if you think about that, right? We create a room, and we make a price, and the only thing the guest can do is just buy. And with this, you can totally decentralize, and you can bring another level of community, and that opens a whole different conversation about Web3 marketing, about, for example, loyalty programs that can be completely decentralized, right? There are several companies trying to do something amazing with that, and that can only be done with tokenization. So it's fascinating, and I think it's the most under-discussed aspect of Web3 in the hospitality space, but it's coming.
Wow,
Yeah,
that was a beautiful take on tokenization. We really needed to have you on one of our Meta Talks, and I'm so happy we did. Wrapping up, there is this final question. I believe everyone watching this would love to know, how would the hotel of 2030 operate and look like?
Believe it or not, I always say that it will be very, very human. You will not see much technology, because I always say that when technology is good, you don't see it. And I don't know if have you ever watched that beautiful movie, Grand Hotel Budapest? You know, it's just it's a massive. Like, if you work in hospitality, you need to watch that. And there is this beautiful part where it says, "What is a lobby boy?" You know, lobby boy is somebody that is always in sight, but is always invisible, and he knows the needs of the guests before they even know they have those needs. Now, technology, good technology for me, it's exactly that. It's something that is always in sight, is helping you as a guest and as somebody working in the hotel, but it's completely invisible, right? So, and you know, a lot of people, Salman, it's for talking to you, it's easy because we had this discussion like many times. But you know, you got the question many times as well. You know, like, people think, okay, maybe in 10 years we will get robot receptionists and no humans. I said, no. The only thing we will have in 10 years is that humans will go back doing what they do best, and that is taking care of people. And technology will take care of what technology does the best, and that is, you know, taking care of repetitive tasks, for example, and so forth. So to a certain extent, I think that in 2030, when we get into a hotel, we will finally have a good hospitality experience, because people will be able to focus on other people. They will not have to focus on their software, because all the, what I call the logistics of travel, you know, charging credit card, checking in, passport copies, all this stuff, it's just on the background. And that can be done by, you know, AI, RPA, whatever you want. But, you know, humans will deal with humans. And to a certain extent, I think that this is only thanks to technology that we can go back to the root of what we do, and that is hospitality. And that is, you know, if we go back to the Greek root of the word, that is taking care of people.
That is yet another beautiful take. And I completely agree. People are scared that AI is going to take their places. People are scared that with digitalization, they're just not going to have anything to do, without noticing that at some point in life, in the Industrial Revolution, our lives changed. With every revolution, with the early internet revolution, our lives changed. How we did our work changed, but not us as people and our importance to the economy and our importance to the world as humans. So wonderful take, Simone. And I have this final question here. We are absolutely honored to have you as a speaker at our upcoming Metagate Summit. In your perspective, how important do you believe events like Metagate Summit are in fostering innovation within the metaverse industry? And what are your expectations for this year's summit?
Well, they're not important, they're mandatory at this point. And I tell you, the problem is that now we're past the point that where the metaverse is something new, brand new, okay? Now we are in this very dangerous moment where everybody has an opinion about the metaverse. But the problem is that a lot of these people, they don't really understand what the metaverse is. And for a lot of, you know, I'm talking about consultants or web agencies, and for a lot of these companies, it's not even on purpose. I just think they don't know where to get the right information, right? And so it's, to me, like the underlying technology will change. Okay, at some point we will have a standard. So it will be Blender, it will be Unity. It's like this will be an afterthought. Okay, for the hospitality space, this will not be important. Like today, nobody cares about, like, if you want to create a website for a hotel, the hotel would never ask you about the cable going underwater, bringing the connection to that website. They don't care. They care about the creative aspect of it. And I think we're not there yet. We're talking about the minutia, technical minutia, and that is where a lot of people is alienated by the metaverse, I think. So what you're doing is critical, because even before having a good technology, we need to have a good shared, realistic conversation about the metaverse. And first of all, we need to say, okay, this is what the metaverse is all about. This is what you can do. This is especially what you cannot do, because somebody did it, didn't go well, or these are the possible implications, and it needs to go hand in hand with all the rest of your marketing strategy and so forth. So to me, what you're doing is gold. And that is why that was the idea behind Polybius as well. That is the reason why you're on Polybius, is, okay, we try to evangelize people, and we try to tell people what the metaverse is, but especially what the metaverse is not, because they're getting so many mixed and confused information. And that's the same with crypto, that's the same now with generative AI, that was the same 2 years ago with NFT. And so I wouldn't say we are saviors of humanity, but somebody needs to do it. It's painful. We don't make any money out of that most of the time. It's just a question of, I think it's a question of loving the truth and making sure that people can understand what we talk about without being scared, but even without thinking that this is just a video game, because it's not.
Thank you so much, Simone. It is thanks to people like you and a lot of other people within the space who are really moving the cause of humanity forward and creating a more equitable, sustainable, and human metaverse with everything that's happening. And thank you to everybody for watching this wonderful episode with Simone. For everyone who hasn't followed us yet, go ahead and follow us on our social media pages. Go ahead and follow Simone Puorto and Polybius as well. And we look forward to seeing you at the next Meta Talk. Thank you, everybody.
Thank you.